and welcome back to another episode of Last Minute Laura. I'm Laura, and in today's video, I am going to show you how to dye fabric naturally. First things first, we're going to be using coffee today. So I've got my Starbucks True North blend. I should have gotten a dark roast, but we're drinking blonde right now, so it's a blonde roast. But you're gonna wanna get a cup of coffee, dried ground coffee, and you're gonna wanna add it to a big pot of hot water because you need to add a ton of water to extract all of the pigment from that coffee. Then turn on your stove, let the water come up to a boil, turn it down to a simmer, and let it simmer for about an hour. After an hour, you should have most of the pigment out. It's not going to keep giving, it'll just eventually just be sitting there making delicious coffee smell in your home. And then you're going to want to strain out your coffee and add your fabric. What we're going to be dyeing today is some unbleached cotton muslin, as well as some bleached cotton tape and some bleached white cotton yarn. So I'm using the Bernat Handicrafter cotton yarn in white, and our goal from this is to get something a little bit darker than that. So this is my previous dye I did with coffee. You can see I got a little bit of color there. I would like to get a little bit darker this time, so I'm gonna soak it a little longer. You should soak for 2 to 4 hours, but it's already late in the day, so I'm probably gonna be doing about 12 hours because by the time the 4 hours is over, the sun won't be the same and we can't be having different lighting or that'll screw everything up. So I'm just going to get my coffee together, get my pots at the stove, and I will meet you at the stove to set everything up. All right, so now that we're at the stove, I'm going to add about 1/3 of a cup of dark roast coffee with a whole lot of water on top. And then just get that coffee up to a boil. Add more water than you think you're gonna need, and once it hits a boil, let it go back down to a simmer and reduce the heat and let it cook for about an hour to get all of that dark chocolatey brown out of there, and then we will dye our fabric once that's all finished. All right, so here we go. This is the coffee. Right now it's really just a very strong pot of coffee. So what I'm going to do is use this French press to filter out all of the coffee grounds. Yeah. All right. Okay, and once those coffee grounds are all filtered out, there we go, French press, I'm going to take a glass container. So anything glass is good. This is all I've got left now. Everything else is in the wash. And I'm gonna put my pre-soaked fabrics in. So I'm using these little swatches that I made from Bernat Handicrafter cotton yarn in the white. And then I'm also taking some fine unbleached muslin and some more coarse unbleached muslin, as well as a little piece of trim that is really white. I thought it would work great for swatches. So I'm just gonna put those right in and then pour that coffee over it. Cool, perfect. All right. And then I'm just gonna leave this sitting out on the counter for the next 4 hours or so, as much as to get that fabric as dark as it can be, to get that yarn as dark as it can be. I want as much pigment onto that as it can have, and then we will come back and see what we've got in a couple of hours. Okay guys, so I'm just gonna apologize ahead of time. It's the next day now. I did a whole bunch of these dyes yesterday, and I am going to go through them, I promise, but they definitely sat more than 4 hours. So we're going to have a really good outcome, but they're going to come out bit by bit. I will show you them as they go. And each of these is going to have their own individual videos. So if you're here to see avocado or onion, come back to see black bean or rose petals or mustard. Anyway, that's all for now. I'm going to deal with this after breakfast. Welcome back. It is the next day and we are working with this coffee dye now. I did leave it a little longer than I had originally intended because the sun left us and I wanted to film in natural light. So that's what happened. So things you'll need for this step of the operation: some glovies. You don't want to stain your skin with that dye. You're also going to need a big bowl of cold water with about a teaspoon of sensitive detergent in there. So I'm using the Arm & Hammer Essentials No Dye, No Scent, but you could definitely use an unscented, I guess unscented is not specific. You want no dye, no fragrance, gentle type thing, but you could use whatever you want. You just might have a little bit more of your dye wash out if you use something other than what I'm using. So next step, I'm just gonna pour out from the one container into a little bit of a shallower container, make it easier for me to access. And then I'm gonna take out my first item, giving it a good squeeze to get any of that extra moisture out. Look at that pretty color. Ugh, from coffee, can you imagine? Okay, so next what you wanna do is rinse it. You wanna get it into that cold water and squeeze and shake it and squish it and rub it together until all of the extra coffee, all of the extra pigment comes out. It's not going to go back to white because you definitely got that white yarn stained, but this is going to rinse out any of that excess so that you don't stain your clothes and you don't have any bleeding in the future and you don't remove any of the dye later in a way that you don't want it to come out. So after you've rinsed it completely and the water is coming out clear when you squeeze your item, whatever you're dyeing, squeeze out the excess water and then lay it out to dry on a dry towel, somewhere warm and dry preferably, until it's dry. I'm gonna probably do 5 hours. Probably about 5 hours is how long I will leave mine. And from there, you should, after it's totally and completely and 100% dry, put it through a wash cycle on cold with some detergent in your laundry machine, and that's just going to verify one last time that all of the extra pigment, anything that hasn't already stained your fabric, is going to wash right out. That way your fabric will be ready for you to use, or your item if you are dyeing a clothing item, it'll be ready to wear. I'm just going to put these guys out on a dry towel, and in about 4 or 5 hours, once they're totally dry, however long that takes, I will show you what colors we got. Just remember, this used to be totally bleached white, so like it is a pretty big change and it looks super cute. So I will see you then. Okay, so it's time for the big reveal. You'll remember we started with some unbleached cotton muslin, some bleached white cotton yarn, and some bleached white cotton tape. And look at what we got. So I know it looks underwhelming, but it's actually a really beautiful color in person. This is the coffee dye. So you can see on the bleached items, it's given you a lot more color payoff. With the crocheted sampler, you can see there is quite a bit of color payoff, and this is color fast. I've already washed it and dried it, and this is the true color that it is now. On the unbleached cotton muslin, it was a little bit underwhelming. We only got a few shades darker, but the shade itself, the actual color of this fabric, is really pretty. If you don't look at it in relation to that original color, it's this beautiful sort of warm tan, and it's kind of close to camel. I don't know, it's beautiful. It would really work for something, and it would really work with that original unbleached color. If you were making something together, you could just, they do look really good together. It didn't give you as much of a color payoff as I would have liked, but in the yarn and in the bleached cotton, it definitely showed up a lot more. What this means for me is that if I was using unbleached cotton muslin, I'd probably just leave it as unbleached cotton muslin and not bother dyeing it because it was not worth the amount of hours it took to get that color. But if I was using a crocheted item, I absolutely would dye it. Look at how pretty it looks compared to the white. It's this beautiful, it's definitely not the color of coffee because most of the pigment will have faded, but it's a beautiful sort of sandy tan, and it would work for, I don't know, whatever you want it to work for. So I really hope that even though the cotton part is meh, I hope that you give this part a try. This would be so awesome to do with your kids, or if you're a teacher, to do with your students, if you've got young students or old students. I had a really good time and I'm in my mid-20s, so meh. But with students, you could do this over a course of a couple of days, which would be awesome. You could also, anybody could do it. You could do it. Just do it. Try it. Everyone should try it. So try it out and let me know how it goes. If you liked this video, let me know in the comments below, or click the like button. I guess that's pretty clear too. If you hated this video, hit the dislike button. Let me know. I need to know what I'm doing right. I need to know what I'm doing wrong. Without feedback, how shall I improve? But anyway, that's it for today. So that is coffee dye. Simmer your coffee for an hour on the stove, followed by straining out the coffee, followed by soaking your fabric or yarn for 4 hours if you can. I forgot about it and left it for about 12, which is fine, but 4 hours should be more than enough. So that is all for today. I really hope you liked this video, and I can't wait to see you guys in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.